morning. Welcome to my professional standards presentation presented by Renata Banks. Today we'll be talking about the standards in the INTASC, which is the Interstate Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium, and the NCTE, the National Council for Teacher Education. The first two standards we're going to cover are both standards number 1 in both pamphlets. The teacher understands how learners grow and develop, recognizing the patterns of learning and development vary individual with the access of cognitive, linguistic, social, emotional, and physical areas, and designs and implements developmentally appropriate and challenging learning experiences. NCTE standard number 1, candidates apply and demonstrates knowledge of learners and learning to foster inclusive learning environments that support coherent, relevant standards, aligned, differentiated, and anti-racist and anti-bias instruction to engage grades 7 through 12 learners in ELA. Breaking those down, we have the first 3 from the INTASC, and the second 3 are from the NCTE. The teacher regularly assesses individuals and group performances in order to design and modify instruction to meet learners' needs in each area of development, cognitive, linguistic, social, emotional, and physical, and scaffolds the next level of development. The second one is the teacher understands how learning occurs, how learners construct knowledge, acquire skills, and develop disciplined thinking process, and knows how to use instructional strategies that promote student learning. Third one from the INTASC states the teacher respects learners' different strengths and needs and is committed to using the information to further each learner's development. I believe all these coincide with the NCTE standards. Starting out with the first one, candidates gather and interpret comprehensive data on learners' individual differences, identities, and funds of knowledge to foster inclusive learning environments that actively engage all learners in ELA. Second one states candidates apply and demonstrate knowledge of how the constructs of adolescents and learners' identities affect learning experiences to foster coherent, relevant, inclusive, and anti-racist, anti-bias instruction that critically engages all learners in ELA. And the last, candidates apply and demonstrate a knowledge of learning processes that involve individually, collaborative, and critically assessing, consuming, curating, and creating texts, prints, digital, and media. Basically, we have to understand as a teacher that everybody learns different. We need to keep up on knowledge and ideas that will help our class flow and every learner be able to relate to the information. Next, we have INTASC standard number 4 and NCTE standard number 2, stating the teacher understands the central concepts, tools of inquiry, and structures of the disciplines. He or she teaches and creates learning experiences that make these aspects of the discipline accessible and meaningful for learners to assure mastery of the content. NCTE standard number 2, candidates apply and demonstrate knowledge and theoretical perspectives, including anti-racist, anti-bias, ELA pertaining to text, composition, language, and languaging. We'll break those down. First 3 are from the INTASC, the second 3 are from the NCTE. Breaking those core standards down, the teacher effectively uses multiple representations and explanations that capture key ideas in the discipline, guide learners through learning progression, and promote each learner's achievement of content standards. Second one states the teacher understands major concepts, assumption, debates, process, and inquire, and ways of knowing that are central to the disciplines he or she teaches. The third, the teacher realizes that the content knowledge is not a fixed body of facts, but a complex, culturally situated, and ever-evolving. He or she keeps abreast of new ideas and understandings in the field. Moving on to the NCTE standards, candidates apply and demonstrate knowledge and theoretical perspectives about a variety of literature and informational texts, young adult classics, contemporary, and media that represents a range of world literatures, historical traditions, genres, cultures, and lived experiences. Mixing it up is a great thing for your classroom so that they don't get bored. Moving on, candidates apply and demonstrate knowledge and theoretical perspectives of the relationships among the audience, context, and purpose by composing and critically curating a range of text, print, digital media. And lastly, candidates apply and demonstrate knowledge and theoretical perspectives in language and languaging, including language acquisitions, convictions, dialect, grammar systems, and the impact of two languages on society as they relate to various rhetorical situations, journalism, social media, popular culture, and audience. I believe a lot of these standards are saying that teachers need to have a broad variety because you have a broad variety of learners and they all learn different and they're all interested in different things. So it's important to keep up on changing it up a little bit in the classroom. Moving on, the next two standards we'll cover, standard number 7, the INTASC, and standard number 3 in the NCTE. The teacher plans instructions that supports every student in meeting rigorous learning goals by drawing upon the knowledge of content areas, curriculum, cross-disciplinary skills, and pedagogy, as well as knowledge of learners and community context. Candidates apply and demonstrate knowledge of theories, research, and ELA to plan coherent, relevant standards, aligned, differentiated, and anti-racist, anti-bias instruction and assessment. We'll break these down a little further. First 3 are from the INTASC, last 2 are from the NCTE. Breaking this down, the teacher individually and collaboratively selects and creates learning experiences that are appropriate for curriculum goals and content standards and are relevant to learners. The teacher understands content and content standards and how these are organized in the curriculum. The teacher respects learners' diverse strengths and needs and is committed to using this information in plan effective instruction. Knowing the curriculum, understanding the curriculum, knowing what the children's goals are, all play a huge part in planning for the year and getting the students all through the material. Even if you have to change it up a little bit so that everybody understands the knowledge using different information, media, anything available that will convey the knowledge to the students. Lastly, candidates use a variety of resources and technologies to plan coherent, relevant standards, aligned, anti-racist, anti-biased, and differentiated instructions that incorporates theories, research, and knowledge of ELA to support and engage all learners in meeting learning goals. Candidates identify and or design formative and summative assessments that reflect ELA research, align with intended learning outcomes, and engage learners in monitoring their progress towards established goals. Assessments, knowing your children, knowing how they're learning, where they are, and what their goal is at the end of the year, is another component of planning and being flexible enough to change your plans to still meet the goals. Moving on, INTAS standard number 5 and NCTE standard number 4. The teacher understands how to connect concepts and use differing perspectives to engage learners in critical thinking, creativity, and collaborative problem solving related to authentic local and global issues. Candidates implement planned, coherent, relevant standards, aligned, differentiated, and anti-racist, anti-bias, ELA instructions and assessments to motivate and engage all learners. We'll break this down in a minute, but basically we're talking about knowing what you're teaching and knowing how your children are learning. Breaking those down, the teacher develops and implements projects that guide learners in analyzing the complexities of an issue or question using perspectives from varied disciplines and cross-disciplinary skills. A water quality study that draws upon biology and chemistry to look at factual information and social studies to examine policy implications. This teacher understands the ways of knowing in his or her discipline how it relates to other disciplinary approaches to inquire and strengths and limitations of each approach in addressing problems and issues and concerns. And the teacher is constantly exploring how to use disciplinary knowledge as a lens to address local and global issues. Excuse me. The last 3 from the NCTE, candidates implement coherent, relevant standards, aligned, differentiated, and anti-racist, anti-biased as instructions that use a variety of resources and technologies and incorporates theories, research, and knowledge of ELA to support and engage all learners in meeting learning goals. Candidates implement formative and summative assessments that reflect ELA research aligned with intended learning outcomes, engage learners in monitoring their progress towards establishing goals, and guide the next steps of the ELA instruction. And finally, candidates communicate with learners about their performance in ELA in multiple ways that actively involve them in their own learning management systems, digital communication, conferencing, and written feedback. This is important to engage. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the most important parts of teachers, engaging with the students and explaining in a way that each student understands the information, even if it has to be explained several different ways. Moving on. INTAS standard number 9 and NCE standard number 5. The teacher engages in ongoing professional learning and uses evidence to continually evaluate his or her practice, particularly the effects of his or her choices and actions on others, learners, families, other professionals, and community, and adapts practice to meet the needs of each learner. Candidates reflect on their own ELA practice, use knowledge and theoretical perspectives to collaborate with educational community members, and demonstrate readiness for leadership, professional learning, and advocacy. Basically, we need to know what we're teaching. These are broken down into the same categories. The teacher engages in ongoing learning opportunities to develop knowledge and skills in order to provide all learners with engaging curriculum and learning experiences based on local and state standards. The teacher understands and knows how to use a variety of self-assessments and problem-solving strategies to analyze and reflect on his or her practice, to plan for adaptations or adjustments. The teacher takes responsibility for the student learning and uses ongoing analysis and reflection to improve planning and practice. In CTE standards, candidates reflect on their own identities and experiences and how they frame their practices and impact their teaching. Candidates use feedback and evidence from a range of sources to reflect upon and inform their practices. Lastly, candidates apply and demonstrate knowledge of in collaboration with learners, families, colleagues, and ELA related to learning communities, and candidates demonstrate readiness for leadership, professional learning, and advocacy for learners themselves and ELA. This speaks loud to our continuing education, practicing and being community involved, working with the parents, the students, the co-workers, the principal, anybody who's involved in the learning plan, and making sure that we can convey the information and align as teachers and make sure that our students all meet the same goals and that we all have the same goals for them. Finally, the references, and I would like to quote Mr. Benjamin Franklin: "Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn." And I love this saying because it is so true. You can stand in front of a classroom for hours on end, reading out of a book, doing a lecture like this, which is just a bunch of talking. But when you involve your students, they will remember and pick up way more information, and they will enjoy it more, so I feel that they will learn more. Thank you. Have a good day.